Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your attendance on this morning's webinar. My name is Daniel Keane, and I'll be spending the next 45 minutes, maybe to an hour, with you discussing BTC Software's solution, so our integrated accounting and tax software, and how hopefully that can make your practice more productive. So for those of you who sort of did hear my quick message at the beginning about whether you could hear me, there is a questions box on that GoToMeeting panel should be on the sort of right-hand side of your screen. If you do have any questions coming into the webinar, feel free to ask them. All questions will be answered at the end. I'll try to answer all of them at the end, and they'll all be anonymous. So I'm not going to be reading out anyone's names or anything like that. There are no stupid questions. And if you would like us to contact you privately for any questions that you do have, then again, just put the a question into the questions box. No one else should be able to see your questions either, so that's absolutely fine. So please do ask questions as we go throughout the webinar. So that's a little bit about me. I won't spend too long on this slide, but I've spent the past 3, coming up 4 years now, working at BTC Software to help maximize efficiency through software. So I'm involved in the technical sales things in terms of demonstrating the software, a little bit of training, and some webinars obviously as well. So the agenda for this afternoon or this morning's webinar, we've got to welcome a little bit about BTC Software in terms of who we are. So I can see there's a number of names on today's webinar that I don't recognize. So for those of you who might not already be familiar with BTC Software or our offering, there'll be a little bit about us in terms of where we started and where we're at. We'll look at our sort of mission statement, the types of services that we offer, so the different modules, what we offer and provide around those software modules in terms of, we're talking about training, renewals, we'll be talking about data migration, all that good stuff. We'll look at a product demonstration, and then as I mentioned previously, we'll have some time at the end with some questions and answers. So a little bit about us in terms of a company, in terms of our history. So we were founded in 1999, initially starting in corporation tax. Following that, we added our self-assessment and practice management solution. And then in 2014, we added accounts production, which kind of formed the final piece of the puzzle of our solution suite. We got around 2,500 practices that are reliant on our software, around 1,000 accountants in business, which has increased quite dramatically with the introduction of MTD for VAT. So we have a couple of different bridging softwares. We've got one for an individual looking to file their own VAT return, and then also one for an accountant who's looking to file VAT returns on behalf of their clients. That together equates to around 15,000 users of our software. We're all UK based, and we are very proud of the fact that we have won multiple awards at the Accounting Software Excellence Awards. That gives you kind of an idea of the split between accountants in practice and accountants in business. So you can see that the majority of our clients are practices, but we do also have some accountants in business, whether that's accountants filing their VAT returns, as I mentioned, or it might be accountants in industry that are filing accounts for corporation tax returns on behalf of the corporate entity that they work for. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tab out of my presentation and open up the software at the bottom so that we can go through a software demonstration. Now you can see on screen here that we have the different modules that make up the solution suite at the bottom. So we have practice management, which we'll be looking at, some self-assessment, which we won't be going over in today's webinar, but if self-assessment is of interest, what that is going to include is individual, partnership and trust tax returns. Do let me know, put questions into that questions box. I can get the relevant information videos sent across to you. We'll be looking at a corporation tax return, and then also the integration, the two-way integration that we have between the accounts and the tax return. The software comes in 2 variants. Now, it is a desktop application, but it all depends in terms of where the data is being held. So we have a solution cloud, which essentially hosts that data in the cloud so that you can access it via a VPN, which obviously is more important than ever. Everyone working from home these days, remote access is extremely important. So you'll be happy to hear that our software does come in 2 variants. We've got a desktop version. If you've got a server or something already set up, we can install it onto that. Or if you don't have any sort of server or way of sharing the data across multiple different machines and locations, the solution cloud is perfect for you. So we can migrate that data into the cloud, host it for you, and then you would access it via a VPN, ensuring that you don't have to worry about backing up the software, and obviously increases the availability to share the software across 2 different locations. So the practice management, self-assessment, corporation tax, and accounts production makes up the solution suite, of which there's different variants in terms of number of clients that you may have and the number of returns that you're looking to file. Kind of a lighter version, which is specific for either accountants that are scaling down their practice or startup practices. We have a medium, and then we have a professional as well, which is unlimited tax returns, unrestricted tax returns across self-assessment, corporation tax, and accounts production. So we can continue to the Solution Center here, and I can start by logging in. And I suppose the first thing to mention about the software as soon as we log in is there's actually 2 views. As we open up the software, we're going to see the first of our 2 views, which is our individual view. So on this grid section box on the right-hand side, we'll have a list of our individual clients. Now, these are going to consist of sole traders and any individuals that are associated with our organization. So directors of limited companies, partners of partnerships, shareholders, trustees, all that good stuff. Now, the other view that we've got is if I go to client up at the top here and drop down into organization, we've got our organizational view. And this is where we'll find limited companies, partnerships, trusts, and charities. So we do have lots of charity templates. Well, if you do have charity accounts, our software can handle those. We've got about 5 charity account templates, including Scottish charities, company limited by guarantees, clubs and associations, and all sorts. Now, whichever view you're in, whether you're in the individual view or the organizational, you've got these exact same set of tabs that run along the top here. So what you would do is you'd select the client that you're working on from the right-hand side, and all the information that falls under these tabs is going to be pertaining to that client that you've selected, i.e. my demo client for this morning, which is going to be Smith Software of Hammersmith. Now, I'm just going to close down the individual view for now. I'm going to give you kind of a brief run through of each of these different tabs. I'll explain the features and benefits of each, and then we'll finish on this one here, which is the task, tax, and accounts production returns tab. So typically someone that's been using our software day to day, all their data's in here, either where we've migrated it in or they've used the company's house search to import it directly from company's house. They would select the client that they're working on from the right-hand side, and they jump straight into task, tax, and accounts production return, and that would lead them into all of their compliance. But as I said, I will go through all of the tabs kind of in order as we see them here. Now, the first one to mention is the details tab. Now, this is going to hold all of the majority of the standing client data, so names, UTRs, telephone numbers, all of which, if you're not already using BTC software, is information that we can import into here for you. So we don't charge for data migration. We can take all of that across, and our support team will handle all of that for you. As well as that, we've got the company's house search. So in here, we can search for a company name or number. For example, I can pop in their BTC software. I can populate the information held within company's house and bring it straight into the details page. So for your organizations, you're never having to manually enter that detail in. Either we're bringing it in from a third party or we're bringing it in directly from company's house. There are also links to company secretarial, which again isn't something that we're going to be going over today in this particular webinar, but we do have pre-recorded webinars, which again I can send to you, which are available on the YouTube channel. To give you kind of an overview of features, you've got company formations, dividend vouchers, minutes and resolutions, automatic email reminders to clients, and many more. And then we've got BTC Hub, which is our MTD for VAT solution. Now, both of these are web browser-based solutions, and that is the kind of the direction that BTC software are moving in. Although we have the desktop application, it's hosted, we are looking to move all of this existing functionality that you can see on screen into BTC Hub so that we'll have a full web browser-based solution suite. So I believe it will be one of the first providers out there that will have a full practice management and advanced corporation tax accounts production and self-assessment filing module up in the cloud in a web browser. So BTC Hub is essentially our development platform for the future. MTD for VAT did allow us to kind of build a whole brand new product, and of course it makes sense to build that in a web browser-based environment. Now the next tab that we've got is Know Your Client. Now, know your client features further information on the client, none of which is actually mandatory for building up accounts or tax returns, but it's important in terms of building up as much client data as we possibly can and keeping everything under the one roof. So it's all to do with practice management. So in line with anti-money laundering, you've got some risk levels and risk notes on the top here. There's a tick box to say that you met the client face to face. We've got some validation checks here where we can scan in a document if you link it up to a printer, or we can simply move one in from the desktop if we've already got it saved onto the machine. So we're talking about documents like passports, driving license, national identity cards, all to do with your client is who they say they are. You've got some further notes at the bottom here, and then in line with GDPR, some marketing preferences, whether your client prefers to be contacted by email, post, text, or telephone. We've got some key dates here, which are automatically populated for you. So you're not having to worry about doing anything here at all. And it gives you this nice dashboard view of those important key dates that you've got pertaining to the type of client that you selected from the right-hand side. So these key dates here, these will arrive from the details tab. So where you've got dates here like year post financial year end, that period end, they'll derive from that. And not only that, they won't lie dormant within the software. So they'll constantly update. So you get this really nice dashboard view of those key dates. So with the click of a button, you can bring up those important dates if a client asks or you need to check. You've got contact details, which is really nice and simple. We're going to be your addresses. Now, again, this is something that we can import if you're not already using BTC software. The registered address is going to appear from the company's house search. So really, you only have to enter in details if you're adding in additional addresses, correspondence addresses, that sort of thing, by just choosing the add option, and you can enter it straight into here. You've got associated individuals, which is where you can associate any individuals with your organizations. Now, I'm selecting a limited company here, so I've associated a number of directors. You might want to associate partners with partnerships, trustees with trusts. The way that we link the two is very, very nice and simple. We just choose the add option. We select the role of the individual, and the second drop down is going to give us a list of that individual view that we very briefly saw earlier. And you would only have to link them on one, and then it automatically links them on the other. You don't have to link all of the companies together. It is really the only ones that are going to be mandatory are the ones that are going to be signing off the accounts when we see the drop down to that a bit later on in the demo. Associated organizations can be used to group the companies together, or if you're in the individual view, it kind of acts the reverse of this particular tab here, as opposed to associating an individual with an organization. In the individual view, what we'd be doing is associating an organization with an individual. So it kind of works as vice versa. So the first 6 tabs that we've seen there are going to hold the majority of the key client information, most of which we can import for you, and you shouldn't really ever have to use again. There's no double entry anywhere within the software. So once the data's in here, it's then moved into all the different modules later on. Now, to come on to appointments, this is really where we start to bring in the practice management features. So I suppose it's a bit of a kind of a colloquial term, but the best way to describe our practice management is by what we call the 3R principle, in that it reports, it reminds, and it creates recurrences. So what we mean by that is we can report on 2 different types of events. We can report on a system-defined event, which is anything that's already in the software when you come to use it. An example would be a tax return or a set of year-end accounts. And we can also report on a customized event, which is anything that you bring into the software. So it could be any sort of reminder to do with bookkeeping, payroll, anti-money laundering, anything that you want. Once we set up those events and start to report on them, we can also set up reminders to either remind ourselves or another member of staff within the practice of the event that we've got coming up, and also recurrences, and that we only have to set up the event once and then decide however many times that event is going to recur. So it could be daily, weekly, annually, quarterly, however long. Now, there are 2 main types of events that you have within the software. You've got an appointment, which features under this appointments tab that we're seeing here, which is anything that you're looking to attend. So an external meeting maybe might not be as relevant in these current times, but maybe a Zoom meeting might replace that. A board meeting, a webinar, or a demo. Maybe a webinar such as this one, or even a HMRC webinar. The other type of event that we have is a task, and a task is either something you're setting yourself up to do, or setting up for another member of staff within the practice. You can assign a task to someone else. So what we'll do is I'll create brand new task so that you can see what it looks like. So under the task, tax and accounts production returns tab, and as I said, we will come back to this in a second because this is where we get to our year-end accounts and tax returns. If I choose the add option and then go to my event type, Now you can see here we've got a dark blue box, and this is kind of a running theme throughout the software, is that whenever you see a dark blue box, it means that that particular field is customizable. So you'll see that in event types, you'll see that in statuses, so we can customize each of these different fields to bring in our own statuses or our own events. So these ones in bold up at the top here, these are your system-defined events. And any ones outside of that bold font, these are all customized. So these are ones that I myself have brought into the software to track. So as an example, I like to use this one. I'll go for a VAT quarter event. I can choose a description of the event. I can add in a location if I want to. I can assign this particular task to another user. And then I can create a start date, a due date, and a reminder date and time. So if we set up a reminder for a couple of minutes time, just to show you what that looks like, we can add some notes in here as well. And then we can go into our recurrence. Now this particular event is a quarterly event, so we're going to choose our recurrence interval as monthly, and then every 3 months, and then we've got ourselves a quarterly event. At the bottom here, pops up the range of recurrence, so you can decide whether this is going to recur indefinitely, end after a certain amount of occurrences, or even end after a specific date. So if we save and close that, we get a description of the event that we've just created under the Task, Tax, and Accounts Deduction Returns tab. And now what we can do with this event is we can track it through the different reports that we offer. So if I go to my Reports tab up at the top here, now we've got our single statutory event reports in that I could pull up a report on any of my different tax returns, year-end accounts, VAT returns, calculations and exclusions. This particular report is going to show me which of my individual clients qualify for making tax digital for business based on their income. Company secretarial readiness reports to ensure that you're not importing duplicates. Client list reports, effort summaries, we've got time recording in here as well, and pending events I will come back to in a second. So if we look at one of these single event reports, if I look at a report to show all of my individual tax returns, so this is obviously a popular one in December, January time. Now you can see here, for all of my clients, they're being logged into this report for the 2021 tax period. And you can see that even though I haven't created any individual tax returns for these particular clients for the 2021 tax period, they're still being logged into this report for me. If I go for an earlier tax year, and there we go, there's a reminder. So a reminder just popped up there. Even if we had the software minimized, this reminder has still come front and center of the screen. And you can open it up, you can make any changes. You've got snooze intervals at the bottom, or we can just go ahead and dismiss it straight away. So if I go for an earlier tax year, so for example, 2015, you can see that I've got some statuses that are in progress as well as not created. So for system-defined events, anything like a tax return or a year-end account, our software automatically changes these statuses for you as you go through the different actions throughout the software. So for example, if we picked up an individual tax return for Diane here, and we sent it to the client, we sent it to Diane, the status would automatically change from in progress to with client for review. If we then got that report back from the client, it was signed, ready to go, we submitted it successfully to HMRC, then the status automatically changes to complete. Then what happens, it will remove itself from this report, because each of these different reports will only ever show your outstanding events until you tick show completed, and then that will show the completed ones as well, whether it's been submitted, and then the submission date. So that's really particularly handy for tracking events, specific events, if you're looking at one specific thing, whether it's any sort of tax return or set of year-end account. One thing that you might be doing at the moment, which tends to be most popular, is tracking everything. And that's where the kind of the pending events report comes in mind. So this is a holistic view of all of the events that you've got outstanding. And there's so many different ways that you could filter this down. So you could filter it across by user, tax year, and then you've got all these different search filters here. So let's say as an example, I wanted to look at all of my outstanding corporation tax returns. All I have to do is search by the event. I just go over to the search bar and I type in corporation tax return. Now that's the system-defined event. I might also want to look at a customized event. So I might want to look for our back quarter event, which we've just created. I can type in VAT. So you can see there's the one for today. It being quarterly, it's already set up. The next quarter has not started. And it's going to give us a reminder as well on the 11th of the 5th. I might also want to search by the client. So I can put in Smith software, and you can see all the outstanding events that I have for Smith software. I might want to search via the period end to see what's due in the next 4 weeks, what's due this month, or if you do the customized timestamps, you can do that as well. And then also the due date. So the due date is used for customized events, anything like a VAT return preparation, a quarterly event, a telephone call, something to do with payroll, that sort of thing. Or what some of our clients do is they'd set the due date as well as the period start and the period end. The period start and the period end would be the cut-off date, the deadline, whereas the due date might be set slightly premature to the period end. So as opposed to having the corporation tax return done on the last day of the month, you might want it to be completed by the 3rd week of the month. In that case, you would set the due date to that date. And as with all of the other reports, each of these different reports are only ever going to show you your outstanding events until you tick show completed. And that will show you completed ones as well. And as with any of these reports, you can export this out into a CSV file. Now, a number of our clients do that for adding, subtracting columns, color coding, whichever. And of course, you've got the option to print this out as well. So if you do have any questions on what you've just seen there in terms of the practice management, tracking deadlines and reminders, again, do drop a question into the questions panel, and I'd be more than happy to answer those at the end, or if you'd rather, I can contact you privately. So reports and letters is further practice management functionality. In here, what we're looking at is global templates of tax return covering letters and year-end accounts covering letters, and also client letters. So if we start off with the covering letters, now what we can see here is a global template of an individual tax return covering letter. So you can see my print view on the right-hand side. Now the first thing that I would do here is edit the template. I would introduce a PDF background, by which you can, I'll show you an example of the one that I've got here. If I click view and preview, just drag it over. So you can see I've introduced a letterhead, a signature, and then a footer at the bottom here. In between this spacing, I would have this body of text. So what I can do is I can go into my paragraph, I can select the different pages, so I can select the body and change this, or I can choose a client name and address box, for example. And the software uses database tags to bring in the relevant information every time, so it can be saved as a global template. Each of this information is going to come in at a click of a button as soon as you produce that individual tax return report. Now you can drag and drop database tags into these templates to include any information that you want to. So it might be one template per remit, and that you'd save it as a global template, or you might have a specific individual client who would want certain information to appear on his or her covering letter only, in which case you would choose it as a personal template, so that these changes would only appear for Smith software for selected clients. And we have general database tags, which are going to be names, dates, email addresses, that sort of thing. Or we can even bring in tax return information. You can see all the different database tags and all the different information that I can pull in from the database and move in to the covering letter, so that as soon as I produce my individual tax return covering letter, if I want the total income to appear, if I want the tax year to appear, if I want the partnership profit, for example, to appear, as soon as I click the database tag, now every time we produce the individual tax return covering letter, it's going to introduce the partnership profit in that particular box there. And we have the same for client letters as well. So the client letters would also use database tags. Now we have client letters that you're able to use in terms of engagement letters, tax questionnaires, payment reminder letters. All of these templates we already have within the software that you can have a play around with. But you can also produce your own templates. For example, I've created a few kind of gobbledygook ones up at the top here, a birthday invite. If we take a popular letter, something like an engagement letter, to show you what that looks like. Again, you can see database tags being brought in up the top, bringing in your company, your address, the date, and then the client details. And then we've got this whole body of text here, and then at the bottom, some further database tags. Now, typically what a client would do when using BTC software is that if they have an engagement letter template that they want to continue using, they keep the database tags at the bottom and at the top, and they would just copy and paste the body of their engagement letter directly over ours. And then within 5 minutes, they've got themselves a global template of an engagement letter that they can produce at a click of a button as soon as they need to. And that goes for all letters. Now, the next we've got is folders. So this again is further practice management features in that we've got our document management. Then what we're doing here is we're scanning a document directly into the software, moving towards that paperless office. We might want to scan in an invoice of sorts, or we can move in a single document from the desktop, or even move in whole client folders. So you can see here I've saved some emails in here, I've saved some time and fees, invoices. And if I pick up one of these documents, I've got several different options. So I can create new folders or documents, I can delete them, I can view the document itself, I can edit it, I can email it and it'll open up as an attachment within Outlook, or I've got the option to choose my doc save. Now, using this document management is going to be particularly beneficial if you're sharing documents either over your server or via our cloud solution. So you're backing these documents up onto the cloud. But if I want to send this document or any document directly to the client from BTC software, I can do that via the My DocSafe integration. So what will happen is I'll select this My DocSafe option. I can add in a personal message. I can request for an electronic signature. That will go directly from our software through a secure portal. Your client will be email notified that you've sent them a document with a link in that email to sign into their account. They can pick up that email on their phone, laptop, tablet, sign straight into their mini library, which will have all the documents that you give them. So they won't be requesting for these documents you've previously sent them if they're sat there with a financial advisor or need the documents to hand. They can pick up the document, electronically sign it off, and then send it straight back to you through that secure portal. So if you do have any questions on the My DocSafe integration, again, let me know, and I can send you over the relevant details or answer any questions that you have on that. Files is for tracking physical files. So we're talking about any files that are archived, stored in a specific filing cabinet at home, this storage, whatever. It's just to keep a tracking of those physical files and making sure that we keep everything under the one roof in terms of recording where things are held, client details, everything like that, rather than having multiple different spreadsheets that are recording information. And then this is the one that I'll finish on the notes tab before we jump into the compliance, which is a free form note section in which you can make any notes that you want to on the client. So you could jot down the nature of a telephone call, you could record meeting minutes, but actually probably one of the most useful uses that our clients tend to use this for is actually leaving notes to other members of staff within the practice. So there we go. That gives you a run through of the Client Hub, some of the practice management or all of the practice management features there. Again, I haven't gone into too much detail on one specific practice management feature. It's more of an overview. But if you are kind of interested in one specific area of the practice management and want to look at it into more granular detail, then again, let me know and I'll send across the relevant information to you or answer any questions that you have on that. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to clear these ones that I've got here, and we can start with a set of year-end accounts, and we're going to look at the integration between the year-end accounts and tax return. So we're going to build up a extended trial balance within our accounts production. We're going to look at the integration that we have with the various bookkeeping packages, a two-way integration, which is slightly different to other providers that you'll see out there, and then the two-way integration between the accounts and the tax return. So the ability to actually pull information into the tax return, but then also produce the corporation tax chargeable figure and post it back to the accounts directly from within corporation tax module. Now you can see here I've got a set of year-end accounts for the period 1st of April 2016. It is complete, so I'm going to be using this as my prior year. Now, either what I can do is I can choose the roll forward task, and that will automatically create a set of year-end accounts for the next year, or I can create them manually by going to the add option, selecting from the drop-down year-end accounts. It recognizes that there's a prior year, so it automatically picks up the accounting period. But if it's your first year of trading or you're creating that prior year for the first time, nice and simple, you just choose them from the calendar drop-down. I've got a start date, due date, and a reminder date and time option at the bottom. We did see that earlier, so for now I'm just going to go ahead and view and edit the year-end accounts. And what that will do is that will open up a year-end account summary. So it's taking all the relevant information from the details page. As I said, no double entry anywhere within the software. It's automatically brought it into the summary. And importantly, this is where I'm going to choose my accounts production template. So I'm either selecting from any of the different standard templates that we have, for example, 105, 102, 1A, 102, or I'm selecting maybe from a customized template that I myself have created. There is the ability to take one of our existing templates, clone it, give it a name, make changes that you need to details or notes of the account. So, for example, a template for farmers, doctors, taxi drivers, schools, anything that you want pertaining to this kind of the type of client that you have. But in this case, we're just going to select standard FRS 102 1A for the small company. If you do want to include an audit report or any of the accountant's reports, you've got the options available there as well. And there's an option for a bridged account if you check the tick box down at the bottom here. Now, if we open up the year-end accounts, what that's going to do is it's going to transition us directly from using the practice management module into the year-end accounts. As soon as we do, we'll be presented with a message asking us, do we want to roll forward from the prior year? So we get that message there, are we sure we want to roll forward, which will say yes. And then we've got the cover page for the set of accounts here. So if I take you into the table of contents on this left-hand side, you can see we've got the different pages of the report. And if I drop down to extended trial balance, and let's move this editing panel over to the right-hand side, you can see where we've rolled forward from the prior year. I've got my prior year comparatives that have entered into column J there. It's now up for us to get our original trial balance column filled out, or the current year, which is in this one here, this column C. There's many different ways that we can fill this extended trial balance out. The first way, and I'll show you all the different ways, is that we can manually key the figures directly in. So that's your first option, is that you can manually key figures directly into the dark grey boxes, and then the white boxes here, these will always be your calculations. So that's kind of another running theme. Dark grey boxes you can key into, white ones are the calculations. As well as that, we've got the option to produce journals. So I suppose if you wanted to do the kind of the manual posting, you've got ledgers, accounts, debits, and credits. So you can produce a number of journals and build up the extended trial balance that way. We've also got the incomplete records module, and this is kind of like a mini bookkeeping package. It's more geared towards sort of sole traders, smaller sole traders, subcontractors. So shoebox accounting, if you've got a client who comes in with a shoebox of receipts, you can add in bank accounts up at the top here, introduce some opening balances, and then you can log those payments and receipts directly into our software. Now, our software doesn't necessarily work with nominal codes, but if you are used to nominal codes, we've had a lot of clients of ours that have moved over from other software packages which were reliant on nominal codes. You can go in and change our nominal codes and descriptions. And if you are used to manually posting and just kind of tabbing across and entering in codes, then by all means, the software allows you to do that as well, and then export that into the ETB. And then finally, the most popular option, or the most used option, tends to be this one here, which is the trial balance import. And this is where we're importing from any of these different various bookkeeping packages that you can see from the drop down, or we can choose the custom option at the bottom to import via an Excel spreadsheet. So providing you have your spreadsheet as a CSV file, you'd be able to upload it directly into the software. Now, out of this list here, there are 4 online bookkeeping packages that we integrate with specifically. You've got Xero, QuickBooks Online, Free Agent, and Reckon One. And the integration that we have with each of those different bookkeeping packages is that we can log into the software directly from within BTC software, and any adjustments that are made, either through journals or when we bring the corporation tax division back to the accounts, they can all be posted back to the bookkeeping package directly from within the software. So we're not just talking about an integration where we can do a login in the bookkeeping package. That's great. We're talking about a two-way integration. So we're talking about importing the trial balance as is, do all your adjustments on BTC software, produce journal reports if need be, and then export everything back out into the bookkeeping package at once. Now, my example is going to be using Xero. All the other options that we don't necessarily have that two-way integration with, you can browse for a CSV file. But if I choose the option to download, that will open up Xero. It will allow me to log into the bookkeeping package. I can log in. We can allow access for 30 minutes, essentially meaning that we create that token so that we don't have to keep logging in. I'm going to ignore my warning about company details there. And then we've got a mapping screen. So this kind of works in a traffic light system. So what's happening here is you've got these Xero codes and descriptions, and of course the values. And the software is mapping zeros, codes, and descriptions to BTC software's ledgers and accounts. So when we press import, all of these values are going to go into the correct boxes within our extended trial balance. Now you can see there's a lot of greens here, either where the software's been intelligent enough to map these already, or where we've rolled forward from a prior year and it's remembered the mapping that we've previously done. The software will attempt to guess ledgers and accounts in amber, and you can simply tick them off if they're correct. And then the ones in red, it's really, really nice and simple. It's just a case of choosing from the drop down. So for example, where we've got legal and professional fees, we can drop into administrative expenses and then just find the appropriate account. Now, as I map these ones off here, as I mentioned, all of this mapping that I do, if I don't introduce any new IDs or descriptions in the following year, it's going to remember all of the mapping that I've done here. So what will happen is eventually you'll get to the stage where you'll be importing your spreadsheets or your bookkeeping trial balance into the software. Everything's green and you can import with a click of a button. So all you have to do is import. Are you sure you want to import? We'll say yes. And we'll see all these values appear within the extended trial balance any second now. There we go. Now at the moment you can see we've got loads of boxes here with no numerical value. So we do have a tool up at the top here to collapse the empty data. And what that will do is that will give us a much nicer view of the extended trial balance and get rid of those unused cells that we're not using. We can add the report signature information at the bottom here for the first year. After that, it'll roll forward. So we can assign our associated individual. And then we'll see all the other areas of the software are now filled out from where we've populated that extended trial balance. Now, what we might want to do is we might want to make some adjustments to this extended trial balance. To that, we just go over to the Journals tab, choose the Add option. So let's give it a name. So let's just call it Journal Adjustment 1. We can make a simple adjustment to some admin expenses. Let's say, for example, telephone and software. And you can see where I've imported from zero, it's picked up the zero codes automatically. So I can debit £100 out of telephone, we'll stick it into software, save and close that. You can see we get a description of the journal where we can view and edit, we can add to it, we can delete it. And that simple journal adjustment is just dropped into column D there. So I can have multiple entries under one journal or have multiple journals and push everything from column E over to the right-hand side. Now, what we might want to do is we might want to get this journal back out into zero after creating it, or QuickBooks Free Agent or Reckon 1. And the way that we do that is really nice and simple. We just go to Print and Journal Export. We can choose Export. It will recognize that we've already imported from zero, so it's going to choose zero automatically from the drop-down. I can choose Upload and then Update, and then we should, there we go, get a nice message to say the year-end accounts have been successfully uploaded. Do we want to view them in zero? If we do, we just click yes. It'll open up zero in my default web browser. I can log in. And it will automatically take me to the editing screen as it's assuming that I want to make a change because at this point it's already been posted. And then you can see at the bottom here, received through the API from BTC Software, Accounts Production, and there's our timestamp. Now, once we've got all the information in here, what we can then do is check the accounts and generate the IXBRL file up at the top. What that will do is it will look for any warning or error messages found within the software, which kind of acts as a safety net feature so that you can't go wrong. Now, I've got some warnings here, which I'm going to override for the sake of the webinar. But an example of a warning would be, for example, if I've removed all of the page numbering from the contents page, that would be a good example of a warning, as it won't affect the final submission, but it will affect the aesthetics of the report when you send it to the client. An example of a warning where you won't be able to override it might be the trial balance doesn't balance, for example. So we get this nice message here to say the year-end accounts were checked and that all-important IXBRL file generated successfully. So I can simply choose the small x now to come out of the year-end accounts module. We're back out into this summary where we opened up the accounts production template, we opened up the year-end accounts, and you can see it's now giving me the option to open the CT return. So if I do that at the bottom here, it'll open up a second summary. The reason we've got two is you can see the first summary is going to go to Company's House. The second is going to submit to HMRC. So if we open up the CT600, you can see the button layout is very, very similar. So it's very, very nice and intuitive to use. It's going to open up the corporation tax module, and you can see that all the figures that we've added into the extended trial balance pull through into the first page, which is our add backs and our deductions. So you can see here it's brought through the entertaining, it's brought through any disallowable expenses, which you can see here. And if you want to add to this, if there's any further donations, anything like that, then again, it's a data grade box, so you can key directly in. If we go to corporation tax calculation, you can see it's already worked out our chargeable figure. So that really all that's left for us to do in here is calculate any losses at the bottom or introduce any of these supplementary schedules. It's a pretty advanced template that we have for the corporation tax return. So everything's covered from capital allowances, capital gains, R&D to these specialist CP600 forms. So loans to participators, charities, and all sorts. And then you've got the standard pages of the CP600, which you can see here. And what I might have to do first here is add in the director's name and status. And if I check the return up the top here, what we'll see is this corporation tax chargeable figure is going to automatically post back to the accounts directly from within here. So unlike any other packages that are out there, we're not having to retype that figure back to the accounts. There's no kind of missing link. You've got the two-way integration, which allows us to post this back to the account, and allowed it as a journal so that we can post it back to the bookkeeping package alongside all of our adjustments. So I can simply check the return and generate the IXBRL file up at the top here. So again, it's a similar button, so you know what to do. It's going to save it, and it's going to give us the action to move to the next stage. It's going to post that figure back, and then we can check our accounts, produce a report, and then obviously send the account and the tax return to company confirmation. There we go. So there's our nice message. So I can choose the small X now to come out of here. We'll go back to the accounts by opening up the year-end accounts. I can go to my extended trial balance. There you go. In column E, you can see there's my corporation tax provision. If I go to journals, you can see it's added it alongside my journal adjustment. I can check and generate now that it's brought my figure in, and that'll be my accounts finished. Now, at any point, you can choose the print option, which you can see in the top left-hand side of my screen, to print off the accounts, create a draft watermark over the top of them at any point throughout the usage of the account production. But I'm going to show you a slightly different way to produce the report to send to the client. As opposed to choosing print, we're going to choose a slightly different option. So I'm going to go to this one here, send to client for review. Now, the reason I'm going to choose this as opposed to print won't change the status. Whereas with client for review, we'll actually change our status from in progress to with client for review, so that we know that that report has been produced and it's been sent to the client. So I can choose the different pages of the report I want to include to send to the client. It's going to default to the full set of accounts. I can add in some other pages if I want to, and as I say, create a draft watermark. But if we now create that report, I'll have my different options, and I can send it through a secure portal via my DocSafe. I've got the option to email, save as a PDF, print. If I show you a preview, you can see what it looks like. Now, this is another example of an edited covering letter, which includes a slightly different logo this time, a signature, a footer. And then we've got the different pages of the report. So we've got a director's report, P&L. There's our balance sheet, notes to the accounts. And then we should have our detailed profit and loss at the bottom there. And we'll see where we sent that to the client for review, you can see it's just changed our status to with client for review. So that now if I go to reports and pending events, another search method that I haven't yet shown you is I can go to status. I can search for with client for review, and I can look at all the reports that are currently out with the client. In this case, I've got an individual, a trust, and a set of year-end accounts returns. And then it's going to show me the amount of time that was spent in each individual module, so that you can see we've spent exactly 10 minutes within the year-end accounts, 4 minutes within a trust tax return, and 12 minutes within the individual tax return. I can pull out reports on any of those different time summaries. So whether it's going to be the amount of time that's spent on a client, the amount of time that's spent on an event, or even a user. For example, I can go to user. I probably have spent loads of time on this, so I can go into my time schedule. I can view user time detail, and then I can break it down into each individual client and where that time's been spent. Now, where we send that to the client, if they're happy with it, they're ready to go, what we can do is we can submit to Company's House as soon as they've signed it or given us the AOK. We can tick box at the bottom here to confirm that we've got authority from the client to submit. It will always default to the filleted set of accounts, but it does give the option to send the full as well. And if we choose to submit filleted accounts to Company's House, that'll go directly to Company's House. Now, obviously, I've got a submission failed here because I'd be sending Company's House and HMRC rubbish all the time, and they'd probably be very angry at me. But yeah, I've just got a submission failed here because I'm just on a demo version. But hopefully, you should have a much nicer view, a much nicer message than that, even. And then for the tax return, there's only one thing that There's only one thing left that we have to do is we open up the CT Comp and CT 600. We haven't yet attached the latest set of accounts that have the CT figure in to the tax return. And to do that, all we have to do is just click the button, check return and generate, and that attaches the latest set of accounts to the tax return. So it's in that mandatory format for HMRC. It's all IXBRL tagged automatically, so there's no need to worry about tagging. It will produce the two together in that mandatory format, and then we'll be able to go ahead and submit straight to HMRC. So there we go. There's our nice message. It now gives us the option to submit to HMRC. Just like we did with the accounts, we can tick the tick box to confirm that we've got the authority from the client to submit. Then we just press submit. And off it goes. That will obviously give us a nice shortcut if I choose the options menu as well, where you can enter in the filing credentials. So you've got your HMRC filing credentials here, your Company's House ones as well. And if you are using our company secretarial solution, you can put in your ID password so that you can actually synchronize and link up company secretarial with practice management to import any details directly found within company secretarial. So there we go. That is going to include the demonstration of the product. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tab back out into my spreadsheet, PowerPoint even, and finish off the webinar and answer hopefully any questions that you do have. So just to give you kind of a reminder of the integration that we do offer. We do integrate with Xero, Sage, Free Agent, QuickBooks, Reckon One for the bookkeeping side of things. And we also integrate with MyDocSafe and DocuSign for the e-portals, e-signing, and GDPR compliance. So the types of, or the main components of the solution suite you'll see on the left-hand side, which I have mentioned: tax submission, year-end accounts, Company's House filing, and practice management, all of which we've seen functionality of today. Again, the only thing that I haven't mentioned is probably individual partnership and trust tax returns. So if that is of interest, or if you wanted to see that side of the software as well, just drop me a question in that. Drop me a question in the questions box. I'll be happy to answer any of those. And some add-on modules outside of the solution suite offering, you can see on the right-hand side, our company secretarial, the option to host the database in the cloud, and of course, we've got the MTD for VAT bridging software, which will bridge the gap between non-compliant bookkeeping packages and spreadsheets. So what we provide around the modules that we've looked at today: installation guidance would be the first one. Data migration, which we offer free of charge, so we can take across all of the standing client data from your existing package and import that into BTC software. We've got full telephone product support. So from Monday to Friday between 9 and 5:30, you've got unlimited telephone coverage. You can call in as many times as you like. And we have some email support outside of standard business hours. We've got the full product training for new customers, designated management, which will handle all of your first line questions. And then obviously with that, you've got the flexible renewal terms. So we don't lock you into any difficult to exit 90-day release contracts. We have a very high retention rate of BTC software, which we're very proud of. So should you not wish to renew, then that's completely up to you. Now, obviously, if you haven't actually had the chance to try it for yourself, there's a couple of different ways that you can do it, either via a one-to-one demo. If there's anything you haven't seen today that you're interested in, if you're not already using BTC software, you can request for a one-to-one demo. We can show you any areas of the software of interest. We do have a no obligation 7-day free trial, which can be downloaded directly from the website. That will give you access to the software itself. And then probably one of my favorites is the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/BTC software. That's got loads of pre-recorded webinars like this one. quick showcase style videos and then also tutorial style videos as well. So if you wanted to look at one specific thing or a full overview, then the YouTube channel is probably the best place to go. So there we go. That does conclude this morning's webinar. Thank you very much for joining me and for your attendance. If you do have any questions, by all means, please do use that questions panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and I'll be happy to go over any questions that you do have. Please do ask away now. And if you would like to get in contact with us directly, the best people to speak with are Tom, looking very smiley in Reykjavik, Tim, who's in New York, and then me, who's looking very ginger on a golf course there. And you can contact us on sales@BTC Software or using the telephone number that you can see on the screen. So I will leave this screen up if you wanted to kind of take a screenshot or note any of these details down. And I'll be joining you in a couple of minutes' time just to answer any of those questions. So if you do have any questions, please do ask away. And I will join you in a couple of minutes' time just to make sure that everyone's got a bit of a chance to ask away. And for those who don't have any questions, thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone for your questions. So we've got a couple of questions here in relation to pricing. I appreciate I haven't mentioned any pricing on the particular webinar. What I will do is it might be best to contact you and ask for your sort of specific requirements so that we can put together a quote for you based on those. We do have an idea of pricing that's available on the website. So the current prices of the solution suite, whether it's the light, the medium, and the pro, are available on the website. But depending on what modules you need based on your requirements, we can put together a kind of a custom quote for you. My question is this software cloud-based and can we use it for MTD bookkeeping? So the MTD bookkeeping, we don't have, I'm afraid. We do have VAT returns for MTD, but we don't have a bookkeeping module of sorts. I don't think bookkeeping is probably something that we'll look at anytime soon. We do want to kind of focus on the final accounts and tax return compliance. But we do integrate with several different bookkeeping packages. The ones that we would recommend would be kind of QuickBooks, Xero, Free Agent. The software isn't cloud-based, but we do have a hosted cloud solution, so it can be shared across multiple different machines and can be remoted onto. So yeah, people can use it from multiple different locations at the same time, and you can have concurrent users. We are looking to move into a kind of a full SaaS cloud-based environment very, very soon. Can we get some more information on the My DocSafe integration? Yep, I will drop you across an email with some information on there, send you a link to their website, and we have got a YouTube video, so I'll send you a link to that. I'll make sure we do that for you after the webinar. My second question is how much is the unlimited access? Right now, so as of February 2021, I keep forgetting the date, it's 2021, isn't it? It's roughly around £120 a month plus VAT for practice management, unrestricted accounts, tax returns. Yeah, that would be the price of the full solution suite. Can one-time 4 users use it at different places? Yeah, absolutely. So should you go with the cloud version of our software, you could have 4 users anywhere in the world use the software at the same time. Okay, so I think that's all of the questions that we've got there. There are a couple of questions actually in relation to the trial in terms of what modules are available. So apologies if I wasn't clear on that one. The trial gives you full access to practice management, year-end accounts, and tax returns. We don't have a trial for BTC Hub. It does include charities to answer someone's question. And to answer another, the only restriction is actually on the filing. If you do enter live data into the trial, and you want the data to remain if you go ahead and purchase, we can license the trial so that the data is not lost. Hopefully that answers kind of multiple questions at once. Now, as I said, if you do have any further questions or if you wanted to ask questions directly to us, by all means do email sales@BTC Software, or you can call the telephone number and speak with myself, Tim, or Tom. So once again, thank you everyone for your attendance. I hope you did enjoy the webinar. If you did, any sort of kind feedback would be very much appreciated. And hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much. Bye bye.